eventually you get absorbed in, and you are Sonic.
What's up, everybody? I'm Taylor Olmstead, and I want to welcome you back to No Repeat, a podcast where we pick 3 songs every week with no repeats, no doers, to create a perfect playlist for every occasion life throws at you. Joining me are my co-hosts, Tyler Reed.
Greetings, mortals.
And Sean Evans.
I am on my way.
Well, Tyler, I believe this week's challenge was your idea. What are we doing here?
You know, this has happened more than once now, where I feel like my body gets inhabited by a dark spirit, and I just type out just something, and I have no recollection of what inspired it, or like where I heard it, because there's a good chance I'm like watching a YouTube video, and I just like slap it in, or like there's like a reference to something. But anyway, this week, we are challenged to find the perfect song for when Zeus strikes you down for being a bitch. And if you want to submit your own challenges, you can DM us on Instagram or Twitter at NoRepeatPod, or you can send us an email at norepeatpod@gmail.com.
So I picked this one out of the list, even though Tyler wrote it, because I have been playing a ton of the video game Hades over the last 2 weeks, because I've been writing a bunch of papers for school, and Hades is kind of great in that it requires just enough thought to like make some small strategic decisions, but the rest of it is just like running and killing. And it's been, getting me back in this headset of the Greek gods, because you are the Prince of Darkness trying to escape from Hades in this game. And the soundtrack to the game is really good. The problem is, as any other roguelike game, you play through all the levels multiple times, and I get kind of sick of hearing the same music all the time. And so I like to turn the game music off and listen to a podcast or listen to other music. And when this challenge showed up in the sheet, I thought, perfect, I can make a new Hades playlist. And so I have just been looking for aggressive, like, loud, kind of dark music to battle my way out of the underworld to. And that's kind of what I was going for with my pick this week is, the game has some, like, sarcastic wit to it, which alleviates what would otherwise be a lot of depressing darkness. And so I wanted something that had kind of like that spirit that's like, you're fighting your way through hell, but you're kind of having a good time. You're talking some smack. And then Zeus strikes you down because you're being a little bitch.
God, well, was not my approach to this whatsoever. But I had kind of forgotten that you were playing Hades, so I think that makes a lot of sense now. I haven't played Hades, but I know that if I do play it, I will like it, because I enjoyed their other game. But yeah, so what I was kind of focusing on was, I was mostly focusing on a more, on sort of the language that I had sort of chosen. And so what I imagined is, well, you're being smited for being a bitch. And I was like, well, okay. So what I'm thinking about is, like, I'm kind of thinking about the verbiage, and I was thinking about maybe there's, like, a Run the Jewel song, or maybe, like, a rap song that, like, has, like, a sort of, like, swagger to it, or like, a sort of, like, a diss track or something like that. And so I think that's kind of why I ended up doing, was trying to find a song that sort of had like an antagonism to it, or there was some sort of confrontation, or there was like a wrongdoing sort of referenced in it. And so I was thinking about that, whereas like it's sort of I was focusing less on the celestial and more about like what are they being smited for? Like, what is that interaction that's happening? Because I feel like I probably would have just went for something much more heavy and like choral. Like I would have found like a Nightwish song that probably would have worked really great, like some symphonic metal that would have been good for like the gods part of it. But we kind of recorded this episode and the previous episode to kind of quick succession, so I didn't have as much time as I would have liked. So I feel like I found a song that definitely has a good attitude to it, and that's kind of what I was focusing on, was a kind of a gnarly attitude.
Well, I know you guys really phoned it in on this one. I made no promises in the chat that I was going to be nice about it at all this week, because if you're being struck down by Zeus, there's probably something really hard and heavy that's going down, and I don't know. I felt like you guys kind of just like danced into Sunday on this one, and why I was getting all this kind of like side-eye shade for putting my song in
20 minutes
a little later. I didn't really detect very much mad being struck down by Zeus in your song, so at the risk of my song being a little aggressive for the playlist, the song was the challenge, I think, was supposed to be aggressive, so we can talk about that later. Taylor's gonna, after Taylor watches tonight's RuPaul, he's definitely gonna turn on my song and be like, how does this happen? And
so I think that's an important point of contention, because this person isn't being smited because they're a heretic, or they're like a war criminal, or like they tried to spite the gods. This is like, you just kind of did something kind of shitty, and Zeus is being a little pet. He's like, you know what? You messed up, kid.
So basically you just changed the challenge to fit your song.
I'm with Tyler here. I think he and I are imagining...
Okay, so where's the consensus now? So I interpreted the challenge wrong. No surprise, everybody.
You're not...
No.
Seasoned listeners will know this happens all the time.
No, stop. You didn't interpret it wrong. You just interpreted it differently. Because I think there are a lot of different...
Oh my god, here's your participation ribbon, Sean.
Ugh, stop. There are a lot of different ways to, like, think about Greek mythology and lenses through which to view the Greek gods. And Tyler and I think we're going for a more, like, playful, modern interpretation of, like, the gods kind of bicker with them among themselves and with the humans, and sometimes they just get petulant and kind of pissed off for, like, insignificant slights, which is a large portion of the plot of the video game Hades. Is like, the more you invest in one god, the other ones get angry at you. And that was kind of the direction that I felt like I was going, and I think Tyler was going, where it's like, it's, you know, they get mad at each other and they have their little fights and humans are caught in the crossfires. That's where I was going. I get where you are, though, with this, like, Zeus coming down from the heavens and smiting your ass. Like, because I think that is also a valid interpretation of the challenge. It's just an angrier Zeus than Tyler and I's Zeus, who's just a little peeved.
I mean, I feel like when you think historically of Zeus, I feel like he's usually not represented as like a malicious god. I feel like he's sort of like, usually he's the old bearded white man that's sort of like, he's like, you know, he's like sort of like the main guy, and so you feel like he kind of has a lot of responsibility. He's not who's literally Hades, right? Or I feel like there's a lot of different, like, Greek gods that are much more menacing.
Kronos ate his children.
Yeah. I mean, that's a reason to be pissed off.
I know. Greek mythology is very metal.
Yeah. I mean...
Just to be clear, I think that the actually saying that Zeus strikes you down is the perfect way to say it, because
he's not just
like Thor hammers you into the ground, right? It's a little spark.
Well, Sean, since you feel so strongly about this, why don't you just go first?
Oh, do I feel strongly? Okay, so this week I chose Holy Roller by Spirit Box. So think I've had this song in a playlist for a while. It's on one of my workout playlists. Not going to surprise you that sometimes when you do endurance sports, you have to tap into this dark energy. Maybe you don't. If that's the case, that's great for you. Sometimes I got to tap into the darkness. In picking this song, I did not realize that they do have a female lead singer, which is awesome. And this band is really solid.
You've seen them before.
What?
You've seen them before, I think. Because I found out, I Wikipedia, they're actually a duo, and they used to be they were one of the people of I Wrestled a Bear Once, which I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, this is really cool. So I guess Tyler and I might have seen them in Akron, which is cool. We might have seen them at Musica. That's so interesting. That's when we saw Enter Sakari, right?
Yeah, and
a band that has also been on this. Nice. Yeah, that was fun. That was a fun trip. Okay, so I know, spoiler alert, I already talked about what I was going to talk about. I came from this song not from a video game challenge, which you guys should also know not to put video game stuff on here because I'm going to have no idea what it means.
No, I just happened to be playing a video game about the Greek gods at the same time that we were talking about this challenge.
Okay. Because I was like, I'm never going to know.
I would have clarified.
Okay, so why do I like this song? It's angry. I like melodic yelling. I think the guitar sounds really cool. I also think that the drums are solid. They can get a little crazy in newcore kind of metal, and not in a good way. But when you watch the live video of this one, everybody knows what they're doing. It's like one thing to just have like a bunch of just like thrashy stuff. It's another thing to have a band that's together and understands how to play music, especially metal, in a way that makes sense. I also like that in newcore, people don't shy away from electronic sounds. Like, you can still have cool electronic sounds, you can still have some singing, you can still have rhythm and stuff, along with like a very flat level of screaming and heaviness, and you can have changes. And I feel like that's what's really good about this. And when I'm like out there riding my bike or running and I need to tap into that energy, that like reservoir of feelings to get an interval done or go run up a hill or something, these are the songs that I count on newcore to get me to that place. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what's a good way to talk, like an energy shot kind of thing. Like it's just like a little bit like if you had like an extra gear. Metalcore does it for me, not in the same way that. And this is a distinct place from listening to somebody like Deftones, because there's not. Deftones is something that I can listen to just like consistently over and over, and it's kind of flat like that. But with metalcore, you get a lot of like ups and downs. There's quiet parts, there's loud parts. It kind of has a grunge feeling to it a little bit, like soft, quiet, blah, blah, blah. But I just figured if I'm being struck by Zeus, it's probably going to be heavy and metally and newcore, and lightning is fast and strikes, and it is very like boom, and then quiet, but there's also thunder and stuff. So I don't know. I was just looking for something that kind of encompassed all those elements of actually being struck by lightning.
Yeah, this was not what I expected, for sure. That said, I do like it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's good.
The first listen, I think I was like, it's too screamy. But then I played it a few times, and I was like, it's, like you said, there's enough of a melody in the screaming that it kind of holds together, which isn't always true. And I think, like you said, the electronic elements make for a really nice contrast. I especially love the like drum and bass elements in the breakdown, because it's just so different. It's not something that I would expect to hear on a track like this. And I think it really displays like an interesting elevation. Like, they are clearly talented musicians who are interested in a lot of different things, and they're primary genre just happens to be metal. And I think I'm always interested in a band that is like trying to bring genres together in weird ways, even if it's not necessarily my home space that they're playing in. As far as fitting the challenge, I think you nailed it. Like, I think when that grindy guitar first hits, that is like the moment that the lightning strikes, because it is kind of quiet and calm before that and a little bit like electronic, and then it just hits like a ton of bricks. And I think that's how it would feel if you were struck down by Zeus. Well done.
And so I also like it base level. I feel like the problem for me is maybe sometimes like my own commitment to like a bit in when I'm picking a song, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to pick this song specifically because it does have like sort of like Judeo-Christian, like it is the lyrically it's about those sorts of things. It is not specifically like Greek themed, and so like for me I wouldn't want to pick it because I feel like I would get grilled for it not being literally about like Greek gods. And so that's like kind of was like I was like going wide for. Like I was like digging through like Coheed and Cambria type stuff. Like I was like, they gotta have some like crazy mythos going on. And so like that's my hang up. And why I feel like I couldn't find like the song that I wanted to, because I was looking at like Dragon Force too. I was looking at like Gallows. I was trying to go in a few different places, and I just couldn't really find what was there. So like, I mean, my critique is that it technically isn't Zeus, but like I don't really care. But about the song itself is that I sort of enjoy the circular, repetitious nature of some of the like the chords that are going on, because I feel like they do like it's hard for me to describe, but there's just segments where it just feels like it's literally like copying and pasting sort of the same sort of like bass rhythm over and over again, kind of like Meshuggah has that's like really gets me going. That I feel like that's the part where they're like, all right everyone, this is when you windmill. This is and like that's what gets it going for me. And I also historically love women doing like unclean vocals like this, because I feel like they're almost, maybe because they are less common, that I find them so enjoyable, but I just feel like they just add a sort of, they have a real tone to them. They don't feel as like sort of, I don't know, I just feel like sometimes like when dudes do it, it's just sort of like gravelly and it doesn't really sound like anything. But like this feels like there's a ferocity to this, and so that's sort of like is exciting for me to listen to. It's the same reason why I like Arch Enemy, who I also was considering for his challenge. But yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm into it.
Yeah, I think so I completely understand where you're coming from. So the reason it took me a minute to turn it in was because I kind of like futzed around with the song a little bit and what I was going to pick, because to what you said, my easy go-to if I wouldn't have found something that was more contemporary would have been something from Protest to Hero's second album. Done. Any song from there would have absolutely just made this, any of their songs would have made this done. I get what you're saying. If I wanted to take it literally, I would have, but I like to go down the storytelling route. But I get what you're saying, and that's a good critique.
I think it's okay to say that sonically it feels like being smited, but it was just less of a lyrical focus. Though the lyrics do invoke the same feeling. So yeah, great.
Hey, this is John from the Song Surfing Podcast. Song Surfing is a playlist of independent music pulled from the far reaches of the internet. I've been searching for music on Bandcamp, SoundCloud, Spotify, Slaps, Audius, Instagram, and a few others, and in each episode of Song Surfing, I present some excellent tunes by a diverse group of interesting independent artists. So if you like to discover new artists and explore some music from around the world, then come song surfing with me. Song surfing is available on all podcast apps as well as Spotify and Amazon.
I guess I'll go next. This week I chose Talk About the Smiling Deathborn Immortality Blues by the Flaming Lips. This is the lead-off track from Flaming Lips' 1992 album, Hit to Death in the Future Head. This is the period of their career when they got an infamous album review that said, "Finally, the punks are taking acid." Which is kind of how I describe this period to people. It's not the lush psychedelics of their 2000s work that most people are familiar with. This is truly a punk band that is getting into psychedelics. And I think that's what makes this album in particular, and this song in particular, so fascinating, is that the guitars are still these like late 80s, early 90s metal-influenced like post-hardcore guitars. They're loud, they're super distorted. Everything is either like bar chords or super high on the fretboard solos. There is no mid-range in any of this. But then you have Wayne Coyne giving this like kind of melodic singing over top of it about death and dying and immortality, which just felt kind of appropriate for the challenge. And I like that there's just these kind of weird sounds throughout it. Like on the chorus, there's what seems to be like a really fast triangle or cowbell. And there's other like weird doo-wops that are like vocally distorted at different points, and just like kind of strange stuff dropped in there. But I feel like it's the raw intensity of the guitars on the verses and just the real loud drums that feels very Zeus giving you a bitch slap. Like, he's not gonna kill you, but you have clearly made him mad. And I'm imagining this is kind of his, like, sit back down credo to the Greeks of, like, everyone wants to live forever, but you don't get to. Only I do. So, that's kind of where I was going.
Oddest part of this song for me is probably the triangle. Oh, like, all the way through,
it's
like...
a lot.
Yeah. And also, I feel like there's a lot of textures that are going on here. Like the doo-wop-wop is like so clean over top of everything, and then hearing it almost sounds like they're using like a Big Muff fuzz.
I'm sure they are. It's 92.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
It's crazy because I almost hear like Smashing Pumpkins in it a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, I get it. I think this is a good Zeus bitch slap. It's not as heavy as I wanted it to be, though, I think.
My problem was when Flaming Lips get heavy, in their early career, it just sounds like everybody else because they were just doing heavy punk rock. And then in the more modern stuff, every time it's heavy, it's kind of slow and plodding and a little bit depressing. And I wanted something that was like up-tempo for this. I don't know why, I just felt like it needed to be a fast song.
Yeah, I feel like you definitely were like, lyrically, this song feels like it's close to kind of where you wanted, and then musically, it was like, it was pretty close in the area. Like, it was like, yeah, this is like a, because in a way, it's very, I think Sean's song is like a 10 in terms of intensity. Like, you know, let's not get loud about the measurements here, but like yours is more like if played live, it's probably like a 5 or a 6. Like, it's like, you know. So I feel like it definitely has a texture. It definitely has a feeling of. What was your sort of vibe again? that you were kind of going for? You don't have to. We don't have to record.
Just like, not Zeus trying to kill you, but like slapping you down a peg.
Okay. I mean, you're right. This does not feel like, this feels like a whimper compared to a bark. And let's be honest, you weren't trying to go for that. So I think the expectations for that appropriate. But no, I mean, aside from that, I feel like I always flirt with the Flaming Lips. I always like really want to like dig into them. What is the one that has the wand on it? What's the album is that?
That's At War with the Mystics. That's
the one that like I bought and then lost that CD, but that was always kind of the one I gravitated towards because it seemed really cool. And I feel like you've given me their stuff before, and I just haven't really dug that deep into it. But I like this song in particular, though. Is this whole album kind of like this?
I mean, there's a couple of like psych ballads on it too, but I would say everything from like 91 through about 95 sounds like this. So that's In Order of Telepathic Surgery, In a Priest-Driven Ambulance, Hits to Death of the Future Head, Transmissions from the Satellite Heart, which is the one with Sheet Don't Use Jelly on it, and then Clouds Taste Metallic. That's kind of their last really guitar-driven record, Clouds Taste Metallic. I think that's probably the best example of this sound. Like, they really nailed it on that one, and then after that it turns into the very synth-heavy stuff that you heard in the 2000s.
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely digging it, and kind of like you said, I think Sean kind of already noted on a lot of the variety of different kinds of, like, instruments and different kind of little things that are kind of fading in and out that I think are really cool and interesting. Yeah, it doesn't, I don't feel 100% aggression, but I don't think you're completely going for that, so I feel like you hit your tone perfectly.
To add into that, I'm glad that your song wasn't like mine.
Oh, now he's turned it around.
Well, no. The reason I say that is because I don't think that I think this is you, right? Like, you're not somebody who is. I'm trying to imagine me and you and our like running styles, because it's been a while since you and I have gone running together. But like, Taylor remembers me, and it really hasn't changed that much back in Athens. But my goal was to go and find the biggest hill and run up it on a regular basis, right? And just do it multiple times. Taylor's style was more like relax, coast. You know, this isn't bad. This is a very, like your running should be meditative. And mine is more of like, I don't know.
Venting your rage?
Yeah, you like run yourself into the ground. Yeah, like that's kind of, and I like that. And I was thinking too, like if I was going to use that metaphor, maybe like, Not everything has to be fire grilled, you know. Sometimes you just want some even heat, and this will get it for you. And this is cool. I like this song a lot. I think the more I listen to it, the more that I'm like, I'm not a huge Flaming Lips fan. Just to put it out there, I never really like felt that connected with this band. But the more that Taylor puts them on here, the more I'm like, I get it, because I feel like that about my song too. I don't expect you guys to listen to Spirit Box after this one song. I can tell you that my song and their songs don't all sound like that, but I get it. And I like that you put it on here because I think this is a cool song.
You certainly flavored it that way, though. I feel like you went it pretty hard there, buddy. Sean's like, if these aren't all metal songs, then this, forget it. Challenge, throw it out. Lost episode, forget it. Taylor, you did a great job. So let's...
Well, Tyler, that just leaves you.
Great.
What do you got?
This week, I chose Pressed to Death by Illuminati Hotties.
I wrote a song on your guitar and it sounds like you wrote a song on my guitar and it sounds like I traced the freckles on your arm and it felt like you held the fabric of my heart and then ripped it. You only like me when I'm sad.
Been talking about this artist for a long time, Sarah Tudson. She sort of created tendercore, which sort of takes the ideas of sort of like bedroom pop and sort of like pop punk and gives it a little bit more of an edge to it. And so Sarah has been doing like sort of like production stuff in the background for most of her career, and so Illuminati Hotties is sort of like her sort of her passion project. And so this is off of her first main album, and then it gets followed up by this really strange mixtape that she basically put out in order to get out of a bad record deal. And that I almost picked a song from the album because the first line off the first song of that is "Let's smash to a podcast," and then crying into the Denny's Grand Slam. And so I almost chose that song because that song is about breaking up with your record label. So what I imagine here is that Zeus is striking down the person that Sarah is talking about in this song, who seems like a real piece of work, who only likes her when she's feeling sad. And she writes a song on her guitar, and it sounds like... And so, like, I don't know, I just feel like this song is just full of very catchy, memorable little one-liners that just feel like, you're like, you know what? There is just that one guy or girl that I just wanted to strike down, that I just wish to whatever God I pray to would just do it for me. And honestly, just right out the bat, the 1-2 just really just sings to me the bitch element to it, where it's not like, you're not like, this person is, I want them to fucking die. I just want them to get what's coming to them. I just feel like it had the right kind of attitude. Like, you're invoking the strength of a god to kind of hurt them. And so, I don't know, I just feel like the song is just a relatable track that I feel like at any point in anyone's life, there's probably that one person that they just want to hurl a lightning bolt at.
There's a lot going on here. Not a bad thing, but I can definitely see how this song, like really all of our songs tonight, could be a real turnoff. It is really kind of jumping around genre-wise, tempo-wise, style-wise, which I enjoy. I think it clearly shows a grasp of, contemporary pop music. And I love when a musician can kind of like show their work like that. The various synths and keys elements, and I think there's a kazoo at one point, like, she's clearly just having fun with this, which I really appreciate. I think bedroom pop and adjacent sometimes takes itself too seriously, and to write songs that are very emotional but don't take themselves too seriously scratches my like front bottoms itch. Like, I'm all about that. I'm not totally sold on this for the challenge. I think it's a little too interpersonal. I mean, I like the idea of you like getting struck down for holding a grudge. I do think that's a very funny bit, but I'm not sure that it conveyed the heaviness. But that's just me.
How do you tell somebody that they picked a song that you liked because not only does it have a nice punky attitude to it, but it also has a little bit of Lana Del Rey, which is everything that I love. Yeah. I think maybe if you could add like a piece of German chocolate cake and some coconut shrimp. Huh. Yes.
That'd be the end of it.
Oh my
Sean.
God, that would be it. No, I thought this was a really good song. It's a little soft for this challenge.
I know what I did.
You can't get him today. You're not gonna thrash Tyler tonight. You can't get me. I'm Mr. Cool. Blah, blah,
all
blah.
this self-confidence.
Right.
I knew what I did. I chose this intentionally. I said it in my thesis. I said, we're lowering the scope down. Smiting them down because you're a bitch. Not because you're a heretic. Not because you committed genocide.
No. Because you're a bitch. Which I'm going to assume is the bitch that you just can't stop complaining.
They're the person that writes sad songs on your guitar.
All right. With this wonderful challenge. Notable B-sides. Some, any, got?
Yes, 3, all from other favorite artists of mine. The Big Come Down by Nine Inch Nails, Mea Culpa by Brian Eno and David Byrne, and Like a Motherless Child by Moby.
Death Voices by Gallows, which says 4 riders, 4 horses, Four riders, four crosses, and speaks about the apocalypse, Valley of the Damned by Dragon Force, Blood Meat by Protest the Hero, dealing with Genghis Khan, Thumbs by Lucy Dacus, which involves you taking your thumbs and putting them into your partner's dad's eyeballs because he's a big piece of shit. And then I thought about Waves by Kanye. I did. It was on there.
I would have probably gone with I Am a God.
Okay, that's fine. Jesus is King, the whole album.
Closed on Sundays. You're my Chick-fil-A.
Let's see. Probably something Protest the Hero. Obvious answer there. Maybe some Between the Buried and Me. Probably Coma Classic or something. Maybe some Killing Joke. That could have made it on there if you're familiar with that band. Probably like mid-90s Killing Joke, not like new Killing Joke or really old Killing Joke. The first time ever on this podcast, I really thought about putting a Scatter the Ashes song on here, but I didn't find one that I thought met the criteria enough, so I didn't put.
That's going to happen one of these days.
So, sorry, not that I have any specific ones. I was just thinking, like, you can kind of see the headspace that I was in when I ended up picking this song, so.
Well, Tyler, if people are concerned about your bitchy behavior, where can they call you out?
Hey everybody, you can find my design illustration work at rudepets.club, and as always, you can find me on socials at rudepetsclub at Instagram and Twitter.
Sean, if people would like to give you offerings of nectar, where can they do that?
You can find me on Instagram at, that's a very specific one that I don't understand, on Instagram at TallySean.
And if you are some sort of demigod interested in blessing me in some sort of form or fashion, you can find me on the socials at TC Olmstead. You can find all of these songs on the No Repeat podcast playlist on Apple Music and Spotify. And we'll be back next week with another episode of No Repeat.